Well, in the beginning, for me, it was just suffering from a lack of confidence and not really feeling emotionally stable and having a good understanding of myself. And that led me down the path of reading books on self-development and trying to build up my confidence to try to feel more at peace within myself. And in the beginning, I was looking for a way to basically remove my emotions because I just saw them as a problem, and I just thought if I could get rid of these, then everything would be okay. And as time went on, I came to see that the neglect that I experienced as a child and the abuse as well is what mainly led to me having difficulties with understanding my emotions, to feeling emotionally unstable and having problems with boundaries and lots of mental activity as well. And as time went on, I came to see it wasn't just about my mind, it was about dealing with my emotional body and working on the trauma and the emotional pain that was further down. So it wasn't just a case of getting there and have positive thoughts and positive affirmations. There was a lot more that I needed to do to really be able to experience inner peace. So now I've come a long way. I'm not always feeling at peace and blissed out, but I've certainly come a long way to where I started off. So when I talk about neglect, there is one side of having people around but not feeling connected to them. And on the other side, there's having no one around. So there's complete abandonment. So there's no one around to soothe the child. There's no one there to take care of their emotional needs. They just left. And then when it comes down to having people around, in this case, it's just not possible to emotionally connect to these people. And obviously, when it comes down to diagnosing the second, I think the first type of neglect, where there's people around, so someone can say there was actually people around during the early years, so they can't have been neglected. But of course, just because there was people around, it doesn't mean that they were actually able to connect to them, so they can feel as though something's wrong, but everything seemed to be okay. But they just can't work out what the issue was, and the issue could be they were simply not able to connect to the people who were there. Well, I think the main thing for me was that I think as a baby, I was often left then. And then as time went on, I was often neglected physically and then emotionally, so not being able to really connect to my parents and then being left so much. So feeling abandoned a lot, and all of that was something that I experienced the effects of that. But for many years I didn't understand what took place. I just felt a bit disconnected and confused, and having lots of issues with feeling worthy and deserving, because at that stage of my life, like anyone is, we're egocentric, so everything was taken personally. So it was not that I was left because of what was going on with my parents, it was that I was left because there's something wrong with me. So that was something that I took in. It was a deep core belief, and then everything was filtered through that. Well, I would say it was something, I knew something wasn't right for many years. So after I was about 16, then I noticed I was with the feeling overwhelmed emotionally and experiencing shame. I didn't know it was shame, but I just often felt the need to hide and to retract. And as things went by, and when I was working on myself with a healer emotionally, I came to see that I often felt abandoned and had the need to die because the pain I was in at that time was obviously extremely intense. And being so small and powerless and needy, there was nothing that I could do. So death seemed like the only way for me to put the pain behind me and to be able to cope. It seemed like the only way out. And along with that, I could dissociate and leave my body, but there wasn't much else I could do. But when I was working on the pain that came up after my father passed on and a relationship came to an end, that's what was coming up a lot. And at that point, I'd read a number of books that went into the effects of neglect, so I had an idea, so I could describe what was going on. And then I spoke to someone who looked after me when I was very small, and he said that that was the case, so that kind of validated the feelings that I had. And then I later read that the feelings are the facts of the body, so what I was experiencing was legitimate. And it was a reflection of what I experienced, but of course my mind had no idea about any of that. I forgot all those things, and perhaps it was too early for my mind to even remember. But all the evidence was there. When someone is in all that pain, then it can pretty much be a challenge to get out of bed. It can be a challenge to handle life. It can be, of course, the depression, the feeling of wanting to die, feeling worthless, and all the self-loathing, and just doing simple tasks can be very difficult. And at that point it can be hard to carry on, to think, what is the point? What is the point of all this? Surely just calling it a day is the best thing to do. And when it comes down to what is on the other side, there is so much to be attained, and not in terms of physical objects, but in terms of an inner experience. But I've found that it's not something that happens overnight. There can be ups and downs, but it's a bit like learning to drive. In the beginning, there's lots of problems, and then as you go on and keep at it, then driving can be something that is enjoyable. So there is the ups and downs, and similar thing with this is that in the beginning, working through pain is obviously very hard, but as time goes on, there can be the inner peace, feeling of being comfortable in your own skin, to be happy to be alive, to see it as a blessing instead of a curse. And through becoming more at peace and comfortable in your own skin, then the simple things in life can often be enough. Spending time with friends, going for a walk, spending time in nature, and all these things that in the past seemed as though they would never take place are possible. But it is something that takes patience and persistence, because without that, it can be hard to even change anything and just to stay in this place of what is the point. But if the work is done, then it's possible to live a life that's worth living.